Whether it's the transient beauty of cherry blossom or the charming colour cocktail of the Alpine House, there is a tangible sense of communal appreciation and shared pleasure amongst visitors at Wisley this spring, with the surroundings buoying a sense of optimism and renewal in these globally troubling times. Wisley is in Surrey, southeast England, and it's the flagship garden of the Royal Horticultural Society. On this blustery day, the wind is quivering cherry blossom like it's the cheerleader of spring, enthusiastically shaking its pretty pink pom-poms to encourage all the bulbs to break forth from the bare earth. And walking around the diverse 240 acres of the garden, we found plenty of ideas and inspiration, and many of the landscape planting features has us thinking about the clever use of harmony and of contrast when combining colour and texture for maximum interest and impact. Achieving harmony through mirroring is when the colour of a feature plant is reflected back through the surrounding planting. The impact of beautifully ethereal silver birch trunks is magnified through the underplanting of white heather. I think sometimes in the garden we're hesitant to mirror identical colour in a group of plants in case it feels repetitive or unimaginative, but here there's such strong visual impact, it's completely enchanting, and that's because there is not only mirrored colour but also textural contrast between the smooth, pristine surface of the bark and the multiple pinpoints of light from the bed of white heather. But if, like us, you don't have a large expanse of garden border for an impactful spring statement on this level, how could you use the mirroring principle on a smaller scale? We found the answer amongst this eclectic arrangement of pots outside the historic Wisley laboratory. Here we were reminded that the evergreen charm and character of conifers is still firmly back in vogue, and what particularly caught our rather covetous eye was the compact and slow-growing pyramidal conifer, winter gold, paired with bright yellow daffodils. It was the fine brushstroke delicacy of the needles, contrasting with the big, bold narcissi trumpets, that made this pairing so unexpected, yet so perfectly matched through mirrored colour. The power of colour mirroring was highlighted again in a nearby border where the deeply saturated pink hyacinths led the eye along the path towards the dreamy flowering star of the show, the camellia. In fact, most of this area was not in flower and there was quite a lot of bare earth on show, but the strong pink display gave a punch that seemed to take up more visual space than it truly occupied, connecting the height of the camellia to the border below. Harmony through suggestion does not involve literal mirroring of colour, but comes through creative use of plant colours suggestively, and at Wisley a particularly pleasing feature in March is the subtle impression of gentle pools of water created by swathes of blue scilla, which extend the visual impact of water features and streams. Water is an important presence around the entire site, from the wilder areas to the most landscaped spaces, and these pools of flowers extend and echo the water's central presence. A delightful bonus with the use of flowers representing water is that even on the most grey and overcast days, there will still be a heavenly blue reflection to admire. And as this scilla flowers before its cousin the bluebell makes a seasonal debut, it can satisfy early colour cravings for dreamy blue woodland floors before the later magical bluebell presence appears. For a cascading water effect, foxtail rosemary is very effective as well as pleasingly aromatic. The Alpine House, with its vibrantly staged plant display, offers a delightfully uplifting selection of colourful gems and is the perfect environment to appreciate the perceptual effects of neighbouring flower colours on one another, as well as the overall delightful impression of experiencing them grouped en masse in a colourful crowd. So let's cast our dazzled eyes over these beauties, and then we'll take a more detailed look at the effects of colour contrast. The colour wheel is constructed around the three primary colours, red, blue and yellow, with the transitional colour stages in between. The more transitional stages there are between two colours, the greater the visual power of the contrast will be. So, for example, the contrast between pink and yellow is more visually amplified than between pink and blue. The greater the contrast, the more bold and lively the impact. This makes blue and yellow such an enlivening and cheerful pairing for spring. The closer the colours sit together on the wheel, the more relaxed and harmonious the effect. Incidentally, I am referring to pink, and you all know what I mean, but technically on the colour wheel I should be describing this colour as magenta. These pale beauties also enchant the eye, but where does white fit into the colour wheel? And while exotic ruffled brown petals have never looked more glamorous, how do darker colours find their place? It works like this. When the pure colour, known as the hue, is mixed with white, it creates tints. When mixed with grey, it creates tones. And when black is added to the mix, it creates shades. So, orange, for example, becomes a shade of brown. One of the deepest shades of flora in nature's palette is black mondo grass, a deep, deep shade of purpley blue. And in the Pinetum at Wisley, this is used to great effect to contrast with the vivid yellow of wild woodland tulips. The greater the tone, tint or shade of two contrasting plant colours, the greater the subtlety of impact through the pairing. So, whilst red and green are opposite to one another on the colour wheel, in other words they are complementary colours, we can see from this curving container display outside the old laboratory at Wisley that the deep shades of red in the hellebores and the dark green conifers create a more subtle but no less interesting contrast and richness. Colour is never static, so as time of day changes and the light shifts, the brightness of petals and foliage can transform too. Colour also depends on factors such as the surroundings and the kind of container used in displays. The harmony created by this grouping also comes from the balance of warmth and coolness in colours. Colour is also highly subjective.
It's purple.
It's pink.
It's purple.
It's pink.
Purple.
Pink.
It's purple.
Clearly pink.
It's purple.
It's pink. At the former garden library, this gorgeous little Korean fur vignette is staged. The colour of the clay pots is mirrored in the brickwork, and this warm-toned backdrop makes green foliage all the more prominent and vibrant. It enhances the complete charm of the plants and draws the passer-by in for closer inspection to appreciate the uniqueness of each specimen. In the rock garden, the warm orange and yellow tints of the ornamental stone contrast with the cool pink and violet of primrose petals to eye-catching effect. This cool-toned rosebud weeping cherry blossom, paired with the warm orangey pink of quince flowers, creates a gorgeously contrasting yet sympathetic pairing that sings out as a focal point on the pathway. Instinctively, visitors are drawn towards the seductive prettiness yet freshness of the colour combination.